Otherwise, the latter would not survive many hours, rarely until the succeeding day.
Wow. I mean, that quote isn't just history, is it? It feels like the very foundation of Mascal thinking. It tells you immediately that we're talking about a fundamental shift in, well, in medical philosophy.
Absolutely. And what's truly fascinating here is just the sheer breadth of what we mean by Mascal. When we use that term, it's not just one type of disaster we're picturing. We're talking about, well, everything from intentional.
How long it takes a beginner like my dad to go from beer belly to get ripped again with Tai Chi.
How old is your father?
He is 56.
Oh, perfect. By the end of November, you won't even recognize him.
But what if he hasn't worked out in years?
That's even better. Tai Chi was built for men 40 plus.
Isn't the gym better after 40?
The gym breaks you. Tai Chi will make you feel better and lose weight faster than in your 20s.
Does he need any equipment?
No, his body. Terror-driven events like mass shootings and bombings. You know, think back to the tragic 2013 Boston Marathon bombing, the immense immediate challenge it posed. But it also includes non-intentional things like major industrial accidents, big building fires, or even vast natural disasters, hurricanes, earthquakes, tsunamis, things that overwhelm everything. And while maybe historically these were less frequent in daily civilian life, the past decade has unfortunately brought increased global instability. And that's led to a significant and frankly absolutely necessary focus on preparing for them. This rising frequency, especially of things like terrorist acts and large-scale accidents, has squarely brought Mascal preparedness right to the forefront of medical training worldwide.
Right. So our mission today, really, is to give you a shortcut to being truly well-informed on the surgeon's, well, indispensable role in these incredibly high-stakes scenarios. We're going to try and extract the most important nuggets of knowledge, explore some maybe surprising facts, and help you grasp this complex field like, well, like an elite professional would. And we're going far beyond just the clinical care, the operating room stuff. We're looking at the crucial, often underappreciated non-clinical aspects that can literally make or break a Mascal response. It's about understanding the entire ecosystem of care, wouldn't you say, and not just one piece of it.
Precisely. The whole system has to work together.
So when we talk about these Mascal events, the core challenge, almost without exception, revolves around major traumatic injuries. We're not talking minor scrapes or sprains here. These are severe injuries demanding rapid triage, comprehensive evaluation, and, crucially, immediate surgical or other procedural interventions. And this immediately highlights the surgeon's central role, doesn't it? Whether they're operating right there in the emergency room during the initial chaos or later in the surgical theater, their expertise, their ability to make swift, life-saving decisions is just absolutely paramount.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, one of the most critical and I'd say often profoundly misunderstood concepts in Mascal care is triage, which at its heart just means the sifting and sorting of patients. It sounds simple, but it's incredibly complex in practice. This is the physician-driven aspect that truly sets the stage for success or failure. It determines who gets care first, and crucially, how those incredibly scarce resources are allocated. And it's a fundamental, often counterintuitive shift from what we do every day, which is providing optimal care for every individual. In a Mascal, you shift to optimizing outcomes for the largest possible group. It's a tough mental and ethical pivot for healthcare providers. Really tough.
I can imagine.
And here's something surprising, a bit of a paradox, really, that often catches people off guard when they think about Mascals. In most real-world events, the majority of patients, often around 50%, actually have minimal injuries. And counterintuitively, these less severely injured folks tend to arrive before the 20% or so with severe or life-threatening injuries.
That's fascinating, and it almost goes against our natural instinct, doesn't it? You'd think the most critical would somehow get there first.
You would.
So what's the practical implication of that for the initial triage officer? Are they almost fighting an instinct to help the people right in front of them, the ones walking and talking, while knowing the worst is yet to come?
That's a fantastic point. It's not just counterintuitive, it's a critical potential pitfall in those first few minutes. The practical implication is that the initial triage approach needs to be incredibly specific and disciplined. You have to avoid overwhelming critical resources like your trauma bays or your operating rooms with those who don't immediately need them. The walking wounded, as they're often called, they frequently self-transport. They arrive in private cars, maybe even on foot, much faster than those who are severely hurt and need careful extraction and ambulance transport.
Right.
So the triage team has to quickly identify and direct those people with minor injuries to separate areas while staying acutely aware that the truly critical cases are coming, and they will demand immediate, high-level resources. resources the second they hit the door. It's like preparing during the calm before the storm, but knowing that storm is definitely on its way.
Which brings us to the history of this. Because here's where it gets really interesting, delving into the very origins of this vital concept. As you mentioned earlier, the term triage itself was actually coined by Napoleon's surgeon, Dr. Baron Larry, whose quote we started with. His principles were, well, revolutionary for the time, weren't they? Born out of sheer necessity on those brutal Napoleonic battlefields.
Absolutely. Battlefield medicine drove so much innovation.
Triage concepts came directly from those battlefield demands. The focus was on salvaging the greatest number of casualties in environments where resources, surgeons, instruments, time, even bandages were incredibly scarce. Larry's principles that focus on the most gravely wounded first, regardless of rank, were stark but incredibly effective for that context. Prioritize care based on injury severity and the likelihood of survival. It wasn't about who was the general, it was about who could actually be saved to fight another day or simply to live. A radical idea then.
A truly radical idea, and the evolution since then has been profound.
Yeah, every major conflict since Napoleon's time has pushed triage and mass gal management forward. The consistent trend has been bringing life-saving care closer and closer to the point of injury using more sophisticated tiered systems. Think about modern battlefield medicine compared to Larry's time. Night and day.
Completely different.
And this vast military experience, full of hard-won lessons, often paid for in blood, has enormous potential for direct application to civilian mass scales. We'll definitely circle back to that synergy later, how military and civilian systems can learn from each other.
That's a crucial historical context, and it raises an important...
Guess what? Turns out the next great developer is you. All you need is an idea. Because with Replit, anyone can build apps in seconds. Like Rachel, she built one to launch her bakery business in 1 week. John, a small business owner, built his own CRM and saved over $50,000 a year. And Michael, a product manager, who automated his workflow and tripled his team's shipping speed. A side hustle, a startup, or something bigger, just describe what you have in mind in your own words, and Replit builds it for you. Design ideas, import your Figma files. Got tools? Connect Stripe, OpenAI, or whatever you use. Need to store data? Replit sets up your database automatically. Then test it, publish it, and share it. So the next
Question. What exactly are we talking about when we use these specific terms like triage, MCI, or mass gal? It's really vital to have clear definitions, especially in these high-stakes, fast-moving situations where every second counts, and miscommunication can be disastrous.
Right, clarity is key.
Okay, so first, triage in its general sense. It's that process of sorting patients to achieve the core mass gal goal, the greatest amount of good for the highest number of patients. It's essential for any trauma system, really, but absolutely pivotal for optimizing survival in what we call multiple casualty incidents, or MCIs. Now, you can have triage without a mass gal. A single bad car crash might require sorting injuries, but mass gal always requires triage. You just can't manage it otherwise.
Makes sense.
Then we have field triage. This is done at or very near the scene, usually by EMS providers. Its main purpose is to quickly assess patients and decide which hospital is best equipped for their injuries. The goal: efficiently concentrate the seriously injured at major trauma centers without overwhelming those centers with minor cases. It's about smart distribution across the region.
Okay, so sorting before they even get to the hospital.
Exactly. Then, once they arrive, you have hospital triage. This is the resorting process inside the medical facility. Patients get put into predefined categories based on local systems, things like non-survivable, minimal or delayed treatment needed, or highest priority. The death rate for the critically injured patients during actual terrorist bombings. What you see is a striking, almost linear increase in critical mortality as the over-triage rate goes up. It's not just theory, it has direct and fatal consequences. The correlation is incredibly strong. So sending too many low acuity patients to your main trauma center during a mass gal can be just as detrimental, maybe even more so, than missing a critical injury sometimes, because it paralyzes the system's ability to save the most lives overall. Just for precision, technically, over-triage is calculated as 1 minus specificity, incorrectly identifying those not seriously injured as severe. And under-triage is 1 minus sensitivity, incorrectly identifying those who are seriously injured. In a mass gal, you need to optimize both, but the focus has to shift heavily towards controlling that over-triage rate to preserve those critical resources. You have to protect your capacity for the truly deadly.
That's That's a really eye-opening distinction. It definitely changes how you think about emergency response priorities, and it leads us perfectly to another absolutely crucial point. The fundamental difference between a multiple casualty incident, an MCI, and a true mass casualty MCL incident. Understanding this difference drives the whole response strategy.
It really does. The labels matter.
Let's start with a standard trauma incident. This is what a level 1 trauma center handles daily. One, maybe a few patients. They have excess resources, expertise, time. It's routine for them.
Business as usual, relatively speaking.
Then, a multiple casualty incident, MCI. This involves multiple injured patients, maybe dozens, but, and this is the key, adequate resources are still available. The system isn't significantly stressed. A big level 1 trauma center might handle, say, 20 severely injured patients from one big highway pileup as an MCI. They can absorb that without fundamentally changing how they operate or running out of critical supplies. They have the surge capacity.
They can stretch, but they don't break.
Exactly. But mass casualty, mass hits, that's an entirely different beast. This is when the number of injured patients, or, critically, the resources needed to care for them, exceeds what is available. This fundamentally stresses the entire system, the hospital, the region, the individual providers. This is the moment where usual protocols get abandoned. The focus dramatically shifts from optimal individual patient outcomes to achieving the greatest good for the greatest number. Group outcomes become the priority.
And that's that profound, difficult, ethical shift we talked about. Staff have to be mentally prepared for that.
Absolutely. And to really visualize this, imagine that graph, the sigmoid curve our sources mentioned. It shows how the level of care just plummets once a facility's surge capacity is exceeded. As the critical casualty load keeps rising, the system goes from handling an MCI okay to suddenly spiraling into a mass scale, where the quality of care for any individual patient drops dramatically. Like a dam breaking, once you're past that tipping point, control is lost.
That curve graphically shows the breaking point.
And then even beyond that, you have a disaster incident. This is usually a huge natural event, hurricane, earthquake,